something that Joseph Campbell taught in one of his lectures, and it has to do with the dollar bill. And we brought you a photostatic copy of a dollar bill, which is worthless, obviously. But in what it's going to give to you tonight, I think you'll find it to be very, very valuable. But what Campbell did in talking about this, he raised the question of brotherhood. And it's a question that's addressed in the Bible in much the same way that we would address it. Love and good things for those who are in our group. Love and good things for those who are a part of our group, but no concern for anybody else. No concern for those who are not part of our group. I mean, all you have to do to see that in action is join a church, and they'll just love you. They'll love you with the love of the Lord. They'll love you in Jesus' name, provided you don't leave. Once you leave, and then go to another church, and then it's over. And we've had that happen, because Joan and I, in the early days, used to visit different churches. And at that period, I worked for cable television and had access to television camera. And I used to televise some churches' service, and they loved us. I mean, pastors would take us to dinner and all of that stuff until, we left. And then it ends. It absolutely ends, Nobody wants any part of you anymore. But let's take a look at a couple of scriptures. And I want you to see what's being said here, to try to balance brotherhood and love. Take a look at page 160 in those little Bibles. Maybe Mike could, all right, you can run back and get them. But take a look at page 160 in those little Bibles, and the rest of you go to the book of Deuteronomy. All right? And I want you to look with me, and let's see where some of this comes from. In Deuteronomy, on page 160 in that little Bible, Deuteronomy chapter 5, okay? Page 160. Deuteronomy chapter 5 and verse 17. What's it say? Thou shalt not kill. All right? Good. Let's write that down, because that's something that obviously would come from God. Thou shalt not kill. Now, while you're at Deuteronomy chapter 5, go to page 161, the very next page, and you go to Deuteronomy chapter 7. Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 1. When the Lord your God shall bring you into the land where you go to possess it, and has cast out the many nations before the Hittites, Gershites, Amorites, blah, 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 blah. Verse 2, and when the Lord your God shall deliver them before you, you shall smite them. That word smite means hurt. And utterly destroy them. You shall make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Here in one breath, thou shalt not kill, and in the next breath, cut the head off. And don't even worry about who they are, how old they are, whether they're nice or they're not nice, just kill them. Okay? Interesting. Now, is this the same God? And is this the same God who spoke up through Jesus Christ and said, when Peter said, how many times shall I forgive? And he says, forgive 7 times 70. In other words, forgive an unending number of times. That's brotherhood, see. That's the real brotherhood. That's what countries should be built upon, the brotherhood that says, forgive 7 times 70. I mean, forgiveness just pours out of you. But you'll find that the church applies the Old Testament style. It depends what group you belong to. Thou shalt not kill is fine, as long as you stay in the group. But if you're a Hittite or a Pershite or a Girgashite, it's okay. So that's exactly what's being said there. And that's basically, you see, the word, when you discuss these Girgashites and Hittites, the word is Gentile. And the word Gentile means an outsider. And as you just saw, the rules of mercy do not apply to an outsider, do they? You just saw it. Just covered with you. Thou shalt not kill. those who are part of the group, but those who are the outsiders, and in those days they called them the Girgashites and the Parasites and the Parasites, those slit their throat and show them no mercy. Can you imagine for a moment the God who created the rose and puppy dogs and pussy cats and saying, don't show anybody any mercy? But Jesus Christ comes along in the New Testament and he says, you got to forgive 7 times 70. So there's really something wrong here, isn't there? Really something wrong. In trying to understand mythology and trying to understand stories with symbolic overtones, Joseph Campbell describes myths as stories about gods. Very interesting. Stories about gods. The gods, however, that you read about are functions in your own body and in nature. That's the beautiful part of it. Not, see, where religion has a difficult time with this. You shall not have strange gods. You can't. There's only one God. But they don't realize that these are just symbolic words that are describing various aspects that are alive within your body and within your mind. And there are also myths that deal with the social order. So you have, according to Campbell, you have myths about gods that are actually myths about you, and you have myths about the social order that you live in, all represented by gods and by nature of various kinds. But the biblical myths, the biblical myths never, ever deal with nature. They always deal with the social order. Because in religion, in Christianity, nature is condemned. That which you live in, nature is condemned. You never, ever, ever find yourself going into a church and being spoken to about the sea or the beasts of the field or animals, or, you know, they're just not into that. Christianity has no place for nature. Nature is actually thought of as evil. Did you ever listen to the gospel songs that they'll sing? I can't wait to get out of this old world. I'm just passing through. I'm going up to a higher place. And where would you want to go? There is not one person that if they had the opportunity to go would want to go. I would go to any church and I'd say, look, I got this sealed gold envelope and it's from Jesus Christ. And he said he wants you to consider being with him tomorrow in heaven. All you got to do is kill yourself. Now, how many people? Even if he did come and say, look, I'll make a deal. I'm Jesus Christ. I really am. I know it's hard for you to believe, but please, when you get home, either swallow something or, you know, do something, and then tomorrow you'll be with me in heaven. Nobody, even if you knew that that would happen, you would want to do it. You would want no part of it. But yet the gospel songs sing, I can't wait to go up. I'm going up yonder. I'm going to a better place. And everything is against the earth. Everything is against nature. Everything is against the planet. And so we virtually wrecked it, destroyed it. I was talking to one of the fellows at work today. I was watching. He came into the office, I had the television on, and we turned around and there was people with machine guns. The guy was shooting a machine gun down the street somewhere. And then you see these old people and little kids coming up on his Afghanistan or someplace with bags over their heads and carrying this. So I said, for what is this? Why is everybody making misery? What do they want to do? Why cause all of these things? But there's something about this, and it's never come through religion because religion is solely concerned about the social order. Keep the women down, keep the women in their place, wear a shawl over your head, put a handkerchief on your head, stay, don't talk in church, don't ask any questions. The social order must be preserved, and the hell with nature. Has no part in it, see. And that's the reason that we're not in accord with nature. See, this is actually why we're not in accord with nature. We don't understand nature. It takes, like we was talking about today, here's an article in the newspaper, there are 7 billion magnets of crystal in the human brain. This is 1992. We're totally out of touch. Even the most sophisticated scientists just finding this out and finding out that maybe there is a way that electromagnetic fields impact on the human brain. And now that they're finding proof of this, and you say, wow, now I understand, what Jesus, the kingdom of God is within. In other words, if these electromagnetic fields are allowed, and if I'm allowed to plug into higher realms, and I am allowed to wow. what can happen? All of the beautiful things in the world can be mine. All of the beautiful things in the world can be ours, and the earth can become what it's supposed to be if we'll only allow it to be. But what do? We cut the forest down. There's talk on television now that they decided, well, they're going to do more farming, tree farming, and the owl, there's spotted owl or something, they're going to lose the spotted owl and so forth. But you have mistreatment of animals, you have the elimination of native customs, you have missionaries went into these remote places and deprived the people of their oneness with nature and set up a social order and destroyed them all. Destroyed them all. People who lived with nature, people who lived with the earth, people who lived with the sky and lived with the sea. Oh, you can't do that. You've got to have a religious social order, and they were destroyed. Destroyed. So we're separated from nature. We have brotherhood only with those in which they believe as we do, or we believe as they do. What has happened in the Bible, I would say that you have dominion over the beasts. And so that gives people license to beat up dogs and cats and animals and do whatever they want. And it doesn't mean that. The beast is us. You have dominion over the animal aspects of your flesh. You have dominion over that if you're willing to take that dominion. But instead we take it literally and go up and beat up on animals. Oh, we can do anything we want, say. In Japan, and I think this is very interesting, the Shinto religion, I don't know if many of you have heard of that, but the Shinto law in Japan is that the process of nature cannot be evil, and every natural impulse is not to be corrected, but to be beautified. Every natural impulse is to be beautified. Most natural impulses in this country are considered by religion sin. No matter what it is. In fact, if too many people do it, then it qualifies for sin because they've got to take whatever the majority of people like and say that's not right. Whatever is fun and the majority of people enjoy doing, they say that's not right. You should come and be miserable. So they subject you to coming to a Wednesday night and eating a covered dish. And that's fun. To them, that's fun. We had, when Joan and I were in Key West, they have this Italian pastry, is it, or French pastry, or whatever it is. Has a little bit of hooch in it, you know. Joan and I don't drink French, but they have this little bit of hooch in this stuff. And it's this custard with cocoa on top of it and lady fingers and a little bit of, you know, and we had 2 or 3. And I said to her, I said, you know, this stuff, you should have to take this stuff to lower your blood pressure and kill cancer. Why do they give you all the garbage? That's, you know, you got to eat greens. All of the good stuff, it's the same thing with religion. All of the fun, all of the enjoyment, all of the joy, it's sinful. And basically, when you take a look at most of these people who get steeped in religion, that's exactly where they're coming from. The Bible that we read says the earth is cursed. In Genesis 3:17, it says, "Cursed is the ground for your sake." Now, what a lot of people think that means, and what I always thought that meant, was that it's going to be hard to plant potatoes because you're going to have weeds, and it doesn't mean anything of the kind. Cursed is the ground for your sake means because of you, you're going to have all kinds of trouble understanding and bringing out of your mind those things that are right. You're going to have stress, you're going to have aggravation, you're going to have sweat, you're going to have tension for your sake because you chose to live over there in the weed field instead of living in the garden in the east. And it is that way. No matter what you try to do, it gets screwed up. Everything that I got figured out, everything goes kaputs. Everything. Doesn't make any difference. And sooner or later it catches up. I was reading today. A guy says, just imagine if sister, you had everything that you wanted to have. Everything, Rose. Everything you've always wanted. All you had to do was just sit and enjoy it. And I was reading the the works of a Sufi. One day I'm going to teach a Sufi. And he said, this would be heaven. You don't have to sweat. You don't have to work. Just enjoy these things every day. Enjoy it over and over and over. And pretty soon I'm bored with this. What else is there? Nothing. Enjoy it over. And then before you know it, heaven is hell. And then one day I'm walking in my heaven, and I see across the canyon people doing something different. What are they doing? I don't know, but it's not what we did. Between me and getting to them is hell and aggravation. I'm going through anyhow because I want to know what's going on over there. That's the way it is. And you continue to do because you've got to learn. You've got to know. And that's life's experience. There is the bitter and there is the sweet. And you've got to drink from both of them. Oh, you'll never know which one is bitter and which one is sweet. And that's basically, and so you come back to earth and back to earth to learn the lessons of life. Learn the lessons of life. And this is it. So God says, I create evil because he creates energy. And we use it and we screw it up and it becomes evil. And we use it and it's used properly, it becomes good. But these are the things then we have to learn. Cursed is the ground for your sake means you've made your bed, you're going to sleep in it. Whatever it may be, however it may be. And so what we've got to do is we've got to turn away from tribal beliefs. Or as Carl Jung said, turn away from the collective consciousness and start to individuate, start to become an individual, start to allow your dreams to come true, start to express them, and when you make decisions, which I do all the time, and they screw up, which many of mine do, you say, it was not a mistake, it was a creation that displayed to me something that doesn't work. So now that's out of the way. I don't have to worry about that anymore. I didn't make a mistake. I simply tasted the bitter, so I know what the sweet is. And I can just go on now and move upwards. No mistakes. Never made a mistake. No errors of any kind whatsoever. Just ways that we created so that we could understand. And the creation was not mine. The creation was God's anyhow. So how could he make a mistake? Because he dwells here, and so we learn these things. And that's a good way to learn. We've got to identify not with a group. Okay? Do not identify with the church. Do not identify with religion. Do not identify with a country. Do not identify with a nationality. Do not identify with a government. Identify with the planet. See, we changed his song. Remember the guy who wrote God Bless America? We changed God bless the universe, long may it. This is what you've got to begin to understand. It's all yours, all ours. You know, you've got to be a citizen of the world. You've got to be a citizen of the universe, a citizen of the planet. And there's got to be a family that is everything that is alive, not just people, but the animals and the fish and the birds and all the wonderful things. You got to identify with everything. Let's take a look then at the $1 bill, okay? And I'll show you some of the things on the $1 bill, some things that you may have seen before, some things that you may not have seen before, okay? The beautiful thing about this, the ancient seal, is at the bottom we are separated into the four corners of the universe, or the four corners of the earth, okay? The four sides of the compass are the wide part of the pyramid. But when you rise to the top, everyone is together and the eye of God opens. That's what that means. Down at the bottom, east, west, north, south, everybody is separated. But when we all come to the top, then we are all in a oneness and the eye of God opens. That's the single eye. That's the single eye. And to realize, see, and this is the beautiful part, to realize that everybody in the universe is capable of touching that eye. Go to page, I don't know what page it's on, Yes, page 781. I want you to go to page 781 in the Bibles. The rest of you go to Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6. All right? This will be good. This will be a good lesson. It'll be easy for you to see this, and I think it'll be easy for you to understand it too. Matthew chapter 6, and if you're ready. Now, I want you to have the Bible in your left hand, and I want you to have the dollar in your right hand. Or you can have the dollar in your left hand and the Bible in your right hand. Doesn't make a bit of difference. It's going to work either way. Ethel doesn't have them in either hand. Okay. Now, you've got the Bible in your left hand. You've got the dollar in your right hand. I want you to look at Matthew chapter 6, verse 22. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Will you please look and stare at that dollar bill and see that eye staring back at you? If you practice the single eye, if you energize the pineal gland of the brain, you will fill with melatonin. It will activate through the hormonic activation of your brain. It will activate the right hemisphere, and your body will fill with wisdom and understanding of the truth of the nature of that which we call God. All right? That's interesting. And it's beautiful. And it's when you see that single eye and you read Jesus saying, if your eye be single, your body will fill with light. Now, take a look at the pyramid again and count the ranges. Each range is a, well, I guess you'd call it a, horizontal line that goes up. There are 13 ranges on the pyramid. And the number 13 is transformation, okay? Number 13 is transformation because it is 1 plus 3, okay, which equals 4, which is the fourfold nature of man, and it is 1, which is God, and 3, which is new life or resurrection, which equals 4, which is mankind, womankind, the fourfold nature, physical, intellectual, spiritual, and emotional. So that's, I'd say mankind to say peoplekind nowadays, okay? 1, God, plus 3, new life, equals 4, which is you and me, all right? Also, you have 12 disciples and 1 Christ, comes out to the same way. Also, you have 12 constellations plus 1 sun, same thing. It's all the same thing, okay? 12 disciples and 1 Christ, 12 constellations, 12 signs, 1 sun. And so that number of 13 is very, very mystical. That's why it's on there. There were originally 13 colonies. Not a coincidence. Mystical. This whole shooting match was founded on mysticism. And you can't see it any more clear. I'm surprised that the fundamentalist hasn't changed the dollar bill. I really am. How they've ever let, the reason they didn't change, like the book of Revelation, they don't know what it means. They really have no idea what it means, because they would have ripped the book of Revelation out of the Bible a long time ago, especially when it talks about the Kundalini moving up the 7 chakras in Revelation 5:1, but they don't know what it means, so they leave it alone. See? Look at that word over at the bottom of the pyramid. Novus, I hope you've got a dollar bill home. Novus, N-O-V-U-S, Ordo Seclorum. You know what it says? You know what that is? A new order of the world. Or, this is the New Age movement. That's what it means. A new order of the world. And do you think that there may be a little coincidence that the single eye is at the top of that pyramid, and at the bottom it talks of the new order of the world? Now, I mean, a lot of people say I make stuff up, but I may have made this up, but you've got a dollar in your pocket, and you check it out. That's what it means. Look at it over at the top of the pyramid, Inuit Coptis, C-O-E-P-T-I-S, means he has smiled on our activities. He is actually the single eye, wisdom and understanding smiling down on your activities. The new order of the world, what is it saying to you? He is smiling down on our activities who practice the single eye, which his son said would fill you with light and wisdom and understanding. Right? I'm telling you. Here it is on a dollar bill. I mean, you're a congressman writing bum checks in order to get these things. Look at something here. Want to see something interesting? And a lot of you can relate to this, since you've come to the single eye. You've come to the garden. Look at. Behind the pyramid is a desert. In front of the pyramid is a garden. And the desert is the dark ages, the old ways, and the garden is the flowering that lies ahead of you. See what this is? All mysticism. And all of these people, I think maybe these churches should refuse to accept any more of these in collections because it has so much of this New Age stuff all over it. They can't accept dollars anymore. Of course, they would say only 5s or 20s are allowed. Now let's go over to the other side, the right side. The eagle, which also in mysticism is the bird of Zeus, if you know that. The eagle holds war and peace. Which side holds war? The left side.